This must be around 5,000 lumens. Anyhow, big box. 6,000 lumens at least. You have to pull down a bit. The light is going. I won't require that text. Bas. First get my chapter driving chapter 789. Chapter 7. Sorry.
Full screen.
না ওটা তো সম্ভবত এইদিকে কোথাও আছে এটা এবার
Is also strict.
Is having lab work.
Okay.
In Sundays also his guide is coming and sitting in just adjacent chamber. So although he is not being able to come.
Who is this guy?
I forgot his name. He's from Tamil Nadu.
Which area is about, sir?
Electrical. Specifically, I don't know. Although is quite upset.
Usually most of the guys should approve of Sunday training something which is he can inform. He may be still
coming under pressure.
No.
Coming under pressure.
No, nothing like that. Suspect that he may not agree, but most of the guys when we talk to them they agree. Sometimes organized group comes as Sunday, but the students insist that
This white chapel is yours, huh? It's there right at the entrance. You put it at the side. Are we poised enough? No, you let that person come. Third person come. Let's sit cross-legged. Collect your thoughts. Take deep breath. Imagine the large lake of water in front of you. The ripples are the thoughts in your mind. Let them flow away and don't pursue. Imagine a lotus in the middle of the lake and your Ishta seated on the lotus. Is full of joy, full of knowledge, and full of strength. Fix your mind on Him. Rishta approaches and occupies the lotus of your heart. He is full of joy, no sorrow touches him. He is full of knowledge, no ignorance touches him. He is full of light and no darkness touches him. He is seated in you in eternal glory. Bow down before Him in all humility, respect, and love. He blesses you, touching your forehead, transfers His love to you, His bliss to you, His knowledge and strength. We are in bliss, knowledge, and strength, one with our Ishta. and may peace prevail thenceforth. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Namashri Atirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukhaswarupaya Swamine Tapaharini. The chapter 7, 8 and 9 is apparently our target today. After having done 6 chapters in 5 weeks, it's too tall an order. But nevertheless, these chapters, henceforth, they dwell on a theme which is bordering in devotion. Up to from 7 to 12, the theme is more looking upon God as a personal God. In the earlier chapters, we had the various aspects of God being described as personal God, as impersonal God, as a person, as a source of uh, creation, and so on. The same description continues, but from the point of view of the aspirant, the sadhaka, the Lord expresses his personal aspect more and more and tries to appeal to his mind. So in the 7th chapter, which is called Jnana and Vijnana Yoga, the name itself is very interesting. Jnana, how does it differ from Vijnana? The entire chapter delineates that. Sri Ramakrishna used to give one example. When people ask what is Jnanam, he would say, to know about the properties of milk. That is Jnana. But it's entirely a different matter to consume the milk and get the nutrition. Knowing about the milk and getting benefited from the milk is two different aspects. So Jnana is knowing about the properties, the attributes, the qualities of the God himself. But Vijnana is in its realization, internalization, and getting benefited out of that. So we say communion through knowledge and realization. So Bhagavan begins with the description of describing two aspects, two nature of his own self. He says there are two selves, two natures to me, two prakritis to me. One is apparently the lower nature. All is apparent because the moment a person attains to the state of realization, to him there is no lower or higher. Everything becomes uniform in his perception. Just as once you know the technology of pot making, for a seasoned potter, he knows that all the pots are made of the same clay. So for him, there is nothing like one material lower than the other material. Because in him, all objects are alike from the very constituent point of view. So this lower and higher, all this discriminative, differentiating vocabulary are used so long as a person has not attained to the realization, which we are currently, which Arjuna was then at that point in time, and Krishna is trying to educate him. So the two powers are, one is the lower, which is the material nature, and what is the material nature? The entire creation constituted by the 5 elements: Akasha, Vayu, Jal, Agni, and Prithvi. So these 5 materials, and that is with respect to the Adibhutas, with regards to the elements, but there is a Adi Yajna also, that is Adhyatma. Adhyatma is for the individual and the collective. From the individual perspective, he is the one who has become the mind, the manas. He is the one who has become the intellect, as well as the one who has become the ego. So, what we call as the material forces and what we call as the individual personal force, there are only three forces: mind, intellect, and ego. And these mind, intellect, and ego are again, if you want to look at its finer form, then you have prana come into picture. Let us not dwell in that, because we will restrict to what Krishna says in the shloka and not get into the the subtleties in the formation of these three different embodiments, namely mind, intellect, and ego. So essentially, they may be prana. So in entirety, that forms a lower consciousness. See, what we call as buddhi, which is so very adorable to us, which is something it appeals to all of us as our higher nature. A person who is knowledgeable is considered to be higher and superior to the person who is ignorant. But Krishna says even that knowledge aspect of the individual is also a kind of a lower prakriti. The reason is very simple. If you dwell into the formation of the knowledge that what we call as knowledge, how is it formed? The knowledge is associative in nature. The child comes and tells, the mother comes and tells the child that so and so is a father. So that particular form is associated with the idea of father. We find all forms of knowledge that we acquire, call it rationalistic, call it logical, call it scriptural, or even experiential. All the knowledge that we call as knowledge are all associative in nature. Somebody has told that this is that, and that association is built up, enmeshed in a complex relationship, and somehow we are able to discern things in its particular as well as in collective forms by wonderfully applying our ability of inference, anumana, and we are able to create new knowledges and then able to work with things of the nature. Because not every time you have to see the fire to infer fire. If you see smoke, then that gives you an idea that the smoke cannot come because of fire, so you infer fire. So the power of inference is very high in human beings. It's also there in animals, but it's equally pronounced in human beings. So, but all of it, in entirety, constitute the lower nature. It's called the apara prakriti in the technical term. And what is the para prakriti? The para prakriti is the higher consciousness. Higher consciousness out of which these lower consciousness have come into existence. And apparently, it is this higher consciousness which is the support of the lower consciousness. In fact, in Mundakopanishad, there is a very beautiful verse, sutra, that says, Brahma Vidya, Sarva Vidya, Pratishtha. Brahma Vidya is actually the state of higher consciousness. And he says, Sarva Vidya is every other forms of knowledge is encrusted or founded at this very stable platform called Brahma Vidya. So if Brahma Vidya is shaken, so to say, if that could be done figuratively, then the entire citadel of so-called the worldly knowledge will all crumble to pieces. It will not have any existence at all. I mean, this is pretty figurative in expression. If you be very rationalistic and then inquire into the meaning of this particular statement, the Brahman, the concept of Brahman, the idea of Brahman, the knowledge of Brahman is the final answer to all questions. All our knowledge, the knowledge tree grows only by a series of questioning. You ask what a tree is, and you answer that it is a shoot and the root, and then trying to disambiguate the term called tree, you end up with the two terms called a shoot and a root. And then now you have to disambiguate what a shoot and what a root is. So your vocabulary is enriching, and the vocabulary of ignorance is enriching. So if you ask what a shoot is, that will further turn out into branches, and then twigs, and then leaves, and then fruits, and then flowers, all of which constitutes the shoot part. And then you have got these many words of which you are not very sure about. So further to which you further the inquiry, asking what the trunk is, what is a twig, what is a flower, what is a fruit, and so on and so forth. Because remember, you are expressing all these things to a blind man. And the blind man looks up all of your description as nothing but a mass and a collection of words. So he is wondering that for every question I am being transacted as answer a bunch of new words for which I will again ask that many number of questions. So what is happening here is our knowledge that we are so proud about is nothing but a huge vocabulary of words for which we do not know the final answer. So from a seed like ignorance, we end up with a mountain of ignorance. But this questioning cannot go beyond a particular point. The reason is it all will now follow the thread. So such a thread-like existence is hypothesized with regards to Brahman. So the moment you know Brahman, up the stack you can answer all your queries and then come up to the root question of what a tree is. You will come up with the answer. The tree is nothing but consciousness. That's the ultimate realization. It is not merely pedagogical, not doctrinal, it is experiential. That's why this particular Upanishad, the chapter says it is knowledge that we are currently having, followed by realization. So the tree, scripture says that the tree is nothing but consciousness, and then pursuing certain practices, the sadhaka, the aspirant, the student, the eager student, the undeterring student, he comes to the realization that the tree, yes, indeed it is consciousness. But unfortunately, the subject is so inscrutable, so subtle, that people do not have the ability to apply themselves in trying to find out the truth behind all these statements. When we say people, the speaker is also included. So, but only, Krishna says, but only a few are aspiring to strive to know the reality. The question, the diamond customers are very few, There are many who go and purchase a lot of fake items, but there are very few who purchase the original items. So, Manushyanam Sahasreshu Kaschid Yatati Siddhaye Yatamapi Siddhanam Kaschin Mam Veti Tattvata. No, sometimes the Lord, even ordinary teacher also says, see, you have to work hard to get to the result. What we are currently doing in the classroom is only very basic, but you have to work out the examples, work out the exercises, and you have to be original, be creative. They will be only given as verbal instruction because they cannot show creativity. Even if they are shown, it's no more creative because it's already done. So creativity is very spontaneous from within. And does everyone get that creativity? No, not everyone. So Krishna also says that, but not everyone is. You cannot say that guys are denied. Those who put an effort, for them it becomes easy. Manushyanam Sahasreshu Kaschit Yatati. Out of thousands of men, Yatati means strives. Strives for what? Siddhaye, for perfection. What is perfection here? Getting to know that common factor of knowledge called Brahman, answering which every other question gets answered. That's the beauty of it. So, Yatati Siddhaye, for perfection. Yatamapi Siddhana, among those who are striving for attaining such a perfection, only a very few among them also come to attain me. Mam Veti, he comes to know me. Veti here, knowing per se is not an intellectual knowing as we get to know physics, chemistry, biology. So here knowing is becoming. So when I ask you a question that who are you, and you say that I know you, I know myself. If you say, I know myself, you don't have to tell me who I am. I know myself. That knowing myself, is it intellectual or experiential? It's an experiential knowledge. So that kind of a knowing is what is appealed. Mam veti. Veti means he comes to know. Comes to know me. How does he come to know me? Not as the way I read a book or I watch a movie. Okay, it is experiential. And what is that kind of experience? You will get to see it later. And then he says, though there are two forms of nature, the higher and the lower, nothing is higher than the higher. Nothing is higher than the higher. If somebody will presuppose that the higher also could have been created by something else, and then some other force could be higher to this, so then you get into what is called as a logical inconclusivity, regress ad infinitum. If everything has a cause, then the cause must have a cause, and that cause must have another cause. So this reasoning leads us to a logical incomprehensibility or incongruence, because you cannot go endlessly. Brahman comes and says that, says in the sense it proves that I become the final cause. Further to which there is no other cause. So it is the universal cause. Though many things will have apparently lower forms of causes, Brahman comes and announces itself as the universal cause. So it says, Mattaf Parataram Nanyate. In the 7th verse, he says, Mattaf Parataram. I think that's the one I said. Yeah, that's the shloka which I have put in the thing. Mattaf Parataram. This is a very beautiful verse. Mattaf Parataram Nanyat. Mahi Sarvam Idam Protam. Everything that you see in the apparent world, in the experiential world, the world that is revealed to your sense organs, all these things are like beads of pearls strung through the thread. The thread is me. So there is nothing superior to the thread. If I sell the thread vis-a-vis selling the pearl, naturally you'll go for the pearl and not the thread. But he says there is nothing greater than the thread, in the sense you cut the thread, all pearls fall apart. They are not together. They cannot be held together. So the garland of pearls is garland only so long as the necklace of pearls is only necklace as long as the thread is there. Otherwise there is no necklace at all. So all are sustained by me. That thereby the sustenance of this necklace comes because of the thread, underlying thread. But do we get to see the thread in a tightly packed necklace? We don't get to see the thread at all. And my immanent self is the essence of all entities. Yeah. But the Sutre Manigana Iva, when he said that, apparently the sutra also becomes yet another object, such as your pearl. Correct? So there again, henceforth, a duality is coming into comprehension. So in order to defeat that duality, he says that no, don't think that the thread is different from the pearl, but the entire thing, I am the one who is sustaining them. So without me, they don't even have an existence. So how is the sustenance? Krishna explains. How is water sustained? The water has got the property taste. If you kill the taste, then water is no more water. If you kill the smell, then the earth is no more earth. If you remove the heat, then can fire be called fire? Not at all. Likewise, if you remove the life, then it becomes inanimate. And then thought is the fundamental component of intellect, fundamental entity of intellect. Strength in the strong. And a person who is bound, for him, in him also, the Lord exists as desire. And what kind of a desire? He says, I exist as desire, not contrary to dharma. He also puts that. Because I can desire to become a terrorist because of my upbringing. So Lord exempts himself from that kind of an association. He says that I'm certainly the desire among the men, but that desire which perpetuates and sustains dharma, which is contrary to dharma, I am not there. He says. Because remember, from the Brahman perspective, from the Atma perspective, there is nothing like good or bad. All are forces, constructive, destructive. But this particular 7 to 12 chapters are meant for realization. Do you want to realize God as a terrorist and lead yourself to self-destruction? Or you want to Worship him as a teacher who will take you from the lower rungs of ignorance to the higher rungs of knowledge. From the lower rungs of sorrow to the higher rungs of bliss and joy. Naturally, we all have an innate desire to entreat the Lord in this manner because of uh, our own choices. Yes.
Swamiji, so this subtlety of dharma, the fact that it should be the same for someone who has had, a compromised upbringing versus someone who has had a good upbringing is something that I am at least quite confused with. Because what is the defining quality of dharma? Why are you like, how can you claim that something is dharma and something is not dharma? If it is, something that is felt by ourselves.
That's a very easy question to answer. The question, your name? Nachiket is putting to dharma, Yama dharma. You may say, sir, you are not Yamana in reality. You are not Nachiketa in reality also. So Nachiketa is putting this question that how can dharma be equal to all? Dharma is not equal to all. In the sense, dharma is, by its very definition, is varied in nature. Each one has got his own dharma. A teacher has his dharma. And the man who is fighting in the Kargil border, he has his own dharma. So both these dharma cannot be equated. Question is one, whether observing the dharma, are you able to comprehend the entire creation as one, or comprehend the creation as divested? If you comprehend as one, then it is dharma. If you comprehend as many, then it is not dharma. If you are able to integrate your knowledge, it is dharma. If you are disintegrated, it is not dharma. If it is constructive, it is dharma. If it is destructive, it is not dharma. You see, a terrorist is someone who causes a lot of violence. Through violence, he causes a lot of harm, hindrance, and loss to others. But will he do the same thing to his own family? So what he is doing is not following dharma. Because it is disintegrating. While he is at heart of heart, he is expecting that his family should grow in an integrated manner, but he is causing disintegration to the community. So therefore, it cannot be dharma. A dharma is the one which unites, which constructs, which helps you to grow. Okay, so none is higher than the nature. Mai sarvamidam protam sutre manigana iva. And then between 12 and 19, another 8 shlokas, Sri Krishna says that there are many who approach me. In fact, all are approaching me only, he says. In one way or other, all are worshipping me only. He says a person, he comes a bit later. Sri Krishna identifies himself, from being an avatara himself, he identifies himself as the origin, as the source of all beings. He says, Matta eveti, Matta eva. Everybody is coming from me only. Rajasaha, Tamasaha, Satvikaha. All the people with placid mental disposition, extremely agitated mental disposition, or even having a bit of a self-destructive disposition. Tamasa is self-destructive disposition. So these three people having these three qualities, all of them mattayeveti. They all attain me only. Eti means to attain. All these three, they are attaining me, means they are approaching me. In various ways, they are approaching me only. Now, but they don't know that they are approaching. The difference between a person who worships the Lord and their opposite is that one is knowledgeable, the other one is ignorant. A person who worships the Lord, how does he worship the Lord? He worships the Lord as that origin. Well, and those people who do not know that, they are helplessly worshipping the Lord, out of which they don't get the knowledge. A person who worships the Lord knowing, he gets the knowledge. But why is it that the guys do not know the power of the all-consuming and all-sustaining power of the Lord? Krishna says, it is because of Maya. People are deluded because of Maya. See, ultimately when Lord says that everything has come out of me, all the forms of clay, all the objects, toys are made out of the clay. After having said that, each toy doesn't get to know that it is made out of clay. How is it that a toy which is made out of clay, somehow it gets the sense of a being? How does it not know that it is made out of clay? It should be knowing, right? So the moment it tries to investigate its own constituent nature, it should come to a conclusion. Yeah, it's clay is me. I'm after all the clay. If we have the relationship, if the clay and the toy has got this kind of a relationship, just as the God and its creation, then why is it that the created beings, after having done sufficient inquiry, doesn't come to know the constituent clay, the constituent God? That's a mystery, you see. That's the reason why they say that's a manushyanam sahasresha kaschit yariti siddhaye. Very, very few people believe in this idea that it is the clay which constitutes the toy, nothing other than the clay. It is the divinity, the consciousness, the God, the Brahman, the Atman, which is embodied, which is what I am. That is my higher nature. That's where my identification is. People are unable to come to that point, including the speaker, because we only talk about it, we only preach about it, we only deliberate about it. But from an experiential standpoint, we are far away from that. Correct? So all of us, in some form or other, are only doing this, running about the chair, but not sitting on the chair. So now, where is this confusion coming from? If the relationship is like the toy and the toy form and the clay, which is so very immediate, and nobody can contradict this, why is it that we are not able to know our essential nature? Sri Krishna says it is because of this singular force called Maya. And that Maya is divine. Why divine? It is divine because that Maya also has its origin in me. For the very reason that it has origin in me, it is divine. So this gives us a hint that all the living beings have its origin in the God. Therefore, all of them are divine. When he says Maya is Daivi, is divine, and out of this Maya only comes this so-called the varied composition of this world. If the Maya is divine, the God is also divine, the creation is also divine.
So I think a very common, very cliche question is, if God is there, then why is the world the way it is? Why does it have so much sorrow and all of that? And fundamentally, it seems.
See, the Maya, so that's precisely the same. See, I'm answering the same question through the words of Sri Krishna. He says that Mama Maya, it is the Maya. What is the character of this Maya? Characteristic of the Maya is it covers the truth. Once it covers the truth, this force comes and covers it like supersonics. Supersonics, when they go, they create a barrier, and not permitting the aircraft to cross that barrier even, right? So likewise, this Maya is coming as a barrier for us to know the truth.
Then again, why would he create that barrier? Or what is the reason for having that also?
That why no philosophy has been able to explain. See, it's not a cliche question, it is a soul-searching question. Why is this world like this? People give an answer, it is because they want it to be like this. If you choose it, if you choose yourself the world to be another way, you can make it. Man is the maker of his destiny. It's just that you don't want peace, you don't want that eternal beatitude, you are not wanting that eternal knowledge. Because it is already there, readily served, only we have to consume it. That's what the Shastras say. And that particular personality, personal transformation has to come eventually to counteract the force of Maya. So the Maya comes and puts an obstruction, and then you have to cross over this Maya. All of us are as if tied in this Maya. And Sri Krishna here says that you can come out of it. It's not that you are eternally bound to this binding force called Maya. How? The second line he says, Mameva ye prapadyate, a person who worships me, in the sense, the toy wants to recognize its origin in the clay. So the moment the dancing toy sits down and then thinks for itself and then tries to understand its composition, then it has to have a well abiding mind. And where should the mind abide? The mind should abide in the clay. When the mind abides in the clay, it gets to understand that it is clay. So when the mind abides in the God, which is the creator, it gets to understand that it is not different from God itself, for that matter. So the only way Krishna seems to be proposing to us to get rid of Maya is to come to me. Come to me means become me. Reach me through and through. That's the only way you get relief from this binding force called Maya. But this bigger, the billion rupee question of why all this, it cannot be answered. People have various answers, and you also create one. You can also create one. Some people say it is the divine Leela. The Lord wants to sport himself. In a game of chess, when two people are playing, will you ever ask a question why the game of chess is being played? Why a pawn is being sacrificed in a particular game? It is the player's choice. To the onlooker, it looks as if the queen is being sacrificed for nothing. But then he has a game plan. The player has a larger idea that he knows how to take the game through. Correct? So the why, one answer is it's a play for someone. Then you should not ask this question, is it somebody's play that I have to suffer? You should not ask that question. Because these are all only models, only to settle the mind with some kind of an answer, so that it does not get stuck up in the very state of mere questioning. The questioning mind has to be put to some rest so that it can do something useful. A continuously questioning mind is practically useless. At some point in time, it will have to collect itself from, because every time you ask a question, mind is thrown out. And then every time you get an answer, the mind is getting in wrong. So different answers are prompted. So one answer to the why this world is this way is it's the divine play. We have come here to play, and then let us not lose ourselves in the play. Let us be a master player. That's one particular model. Another model is what you are now is effectively the making of what you were in the past. Your present is a concomitant continuation of the past. Never you can contradict your past. So if you are a beggar now, you have been a beggar in the past, but you have the potentiality to become rich. You work and then you become rich. You get to earn money, you get to earn your pride, you get to earn your status, and then subsequently you can be what you want, and your life perpetuates, your life continues. So my present being is nothing but the making is out of the past, whatever I have done. Because our Shastra believes that the life is not pertaining to only between birth and death, which is a Western idea. But in the Eastern thought, we say life is continuous. And then there has been no break in the life at all. At various stations, we acquire a body, we live through a small passage of time, we throw away the body, we acquire another body. But the life experience continues. So in the continuation of such a life, my present state is nothing but a non-intermittent continuation of the past. So if you ask why the world is like this, because it is I who have created this world. We have to bear our own responsibility. Let us not blame others for what the world is. I am equally responsible for what the world is presently in its current state. If I had become better, the world would have been much better. So it is a collective contribution for what the world is. So good, bad, more good, the whole world will enjoy. If there is more bad, the whole world will suffer. But the suffering is not for eternal. It will again go back. It will go into a reclamation state, and then some good people will come, because suffering is something which is also an experience that is in the store for us. In the store in the sense we have already had it in the past. So the suffering in the past will give us a learning that we should not commit the same mistakes. You see that the mistakes that you are committing, your seniors are not committing. Your elders are not committing. Some wise classmates are not committing. Some genius youngsters are not committing. Some prodigal newborns are not committing. How is it? It is because their consciousness about their particular weaknesses just got awakened. And so they will not commit the same mistake again. So likewise, through suffering, we are also learning only to avoid the mistakes in the future not pertaining to this body frame, the future of the life itself, in some other form, in some other format. So in the way we experience the world, if somebody asks this question, if God is a reality, and why is it that we are not able to experience this reality, Sri Krishna gives one simple answer. It is because of the force which I myself have created called Maya. So this is the model, by the way. This Maya theory is again a model. It is not an indefatigable model, I should say. For instance, if you ask Gaudapada, he will say that where is the creation itself? I am not seeing the creation. Gaudapada is Sri Shankaracharya's guru, Govinda Bhagavad Pada. And his guru is, I think, Guru's guru, Govinda Bhagavad Pada is his guru, Gaudapada is Guru's guru. Parama Guru, they say. So he would ask this question, he will not accrue to this concept of Maya at all. He will say, Maya, what world you are talking of? I am seeing Chaitanya everywhere. The world has never come into existence. The world that you are describing, the way you are going through, the way you are experiencing, such a world has never come to happen at all for me. See, that is his experience. You cannot blame him. And he is in bliss. He is in full bliss. He is totally and fully knowledgeable. The bliss that we are now hungering for, he is surcharged with it. So enviously enjoying that, singularly. Correct? So now therefore, this Maya theory is also one model which Sri Krishna says. See, that meaning to say that the world, the way it appears to you, is because of a force. And that force is not because of you. That force is already created and it is acting. It's a model. Take this model and then ask this question, Acha, if this force is, the behavior of the force is to create this kind of a phenomenon, then what is the way out? Only by surrendering to me. He says, Mameveye prapadyante mayahametam dharati. Surrender to me, I will see to it that you are relieved from this problem. Remember, 7 to 12 is Bhakti Yoga, where God is seen as a personal reality. He will give his shoulders if you cry. And then he will be very compassionate to you. Between 7 and 12, this is the quality of the avatara. He is extremely empathetic to the jiva, suffering of the jiva. And then he is ready to come with any kind of counseling. Be it verbal counseling or physical counseling or intellectual counseling, he is there. He is there practically in physical form. for that matter. So that saulabhyata, easy to reach, easy to attain, easy to propitiate, that particular nature is being now described in the avatara. Okay, and then between 12 and 19, he says there are 4 kinds of devotees. Sufferer, Artha, a person who is suffering from illness, prays to the God for getting cured of illness. An enquirer is a scientist. It's like a scientist who wants to know the laws of nature. So he is continuously working to discover the laws of nature. You may ask this question, he is not worshipping Krishna or Rama or any god for that matter. No, the very fact that he is dwelling within himself, he is not looking outside for answer, he is looking inside for answer. And then he gets into a kind of a transcendental experience which gives him an intuition. The answer comes as an intuition for the question for which he is engrossed. So the answer does not come as a logical relationship, because it only takes him to logical relationships will only take you to a point of knowledge which is already known. If you want to bring in a new knowledge, then you will have to have a huge leap from your grounded reasoning into the thin air of intuition. That leap you have to take. And all the scientists are looking for that kind of an intuition. They want to come up with new knowledge, the new forces that actually interoperate in the nature, the new applications, which has never ever been thought about. Never ever it has crossed the human mind. They want to create that, make the new thing. That can come only through intuition. So he says, so that person seeking intuition is actually seeking me only, because I am the crust of the intuition. And the boon seeker, somebody wants, like we have the famous Arjuna himself did tapasya and then got Pashupatastra. Right, the boon seekers, getting some freebies from the master. See, Lord is condescending even to that.
Like the asuras.
Huh?
Like the asuras.
Like the asuras. Asuras are also like that only. And then the knower, jnani. A jnani is a person who seeks God for God's sake only. He doesn't seek the world. He is not interested in the power. He is not getting saturated or I should say infatuated by the creation of the God. But he says that if this world is so infatuating in experience, how much more infatuating the God will be. So he says that is the infatuation I want. So he goes to the Lord directly.
Maharaj, what is the fundamental difference between the inquirer and this knower?
Knower is the person who wants to know God for God's sake. The inquirer wants to know the powers of nature. He wants to discover the powers, the manifestations of the God. He is the inquirer. He is not looking for God. He is looking for the manifestation of God through nature's powers. God is expressing himself through powers in the nature. So he is inquiring into the powers of the nature for finding greater and greater lesser forms of truths. Because he is the highest truth. Lord is. And the jnani is the person who thinks differently from the inquirer. He says that why is the inquirer so engrossed in this nature? It is because it's so infatuating experience. He is unable to take off his gaze. So much engrossed. If the world is so captivating, how much more the creator of this world will be? He will be much more captivating, because he is the repository of all the forces. And so he directly approaches to him and then said, such a jnani, the knower, I will consider him as myself. And because he considers me to be the dearest. Because he is considering me to be the dearest. By that very propensity, I consider him to be my dearest. I become dear to him. And he becomes dear to me. But nevertheless, it takes time. It takes time. And Lord says, all these three and plus one inquirers, all of them are noble. They are all noble by nature. But the person who is seeking the highest, I consider him to be the supreme of the Lord. Uttamam gatim. Jnani tu atmaveme matam. It's a very wonderful idea. Jnani tu atmaveme matam. See, how much ever the son, a child, the son of a mother, may achieve big things in the world. But what does the mother say? The mother says, he is my son. He may be the prime minister or the president or defense minister or whatever. The most adorable and most powerful in this state. But then to the mother, he becomes my child, she says. The reason? Child also considers mothers like that. She is my mother. She is my own. What is that you expect from mother? Nothing. Then why are you so loving and attracted? Because she is my mother. What other emotions I will have with my mother? And therefore, the feeling also is reciprocated from mother. Mother also says, he is my child. So this relationship between the two dear ones are pretty mutual, independent of the respective position they hold. One God forms the object of all worship. This is almost coming to a conclusion of it. Lord says that, see, not knowing that the toy, not knowing that the clay is the essential component, the toy goes about trying to find answers to the problems in many ways. It goes to the doctor and says that my heart is not beating well. It goes to the mechanic and says that my motorbike or car is not working well. So that means we are reaching out to lower forms of authorities and try to solve smaller problems fixed. Small and small problems fixed. Likewise, the devotees also, in order to fulfill their wants and needs, it is seen that they resort to lesser powers, lesser forms of powers, lower devatas, which the Vedic corpus, it is filled with descriptions of various gods. Pushanye Karsche Yamasurya Prajapatya Yuga Rashmin Samuhate Joyate E Rupam Kalyanatamam Tatte E Pashyami. So, the various forms of gods, all of them are showing only to the eternal source. Kalyanatamam Pashyami. May I see that particular form which is Pushanye Karshe. Pushan is one form of God. So he is also exercising some powers. And he says, the devotee says that Kalyanatamam, see, I must see the godliness in that. I must not be distracted away by the power which the lower forces exercise upon me and not lose myself. However, I must recognize the ultimate energy, the power, the bliss and the blessing coming through all these forms. Nevertheless, even if we may forget the higher reality, even the lesser forms of gods, when they appease and then they have their desires fulfilled, it's me, Krishna says, it's me and me alone who is actually fulfilling their needs and desires. People may think that Yamadharmaraja is giving some extra 5 days of life because he is praying to Yama, please keep me alive for next 5 days. I want to see my grandchild being born. Because grandchild is going to be born the next day. So he says, give me 5 days of life so that at least I will close my eyes looking at the grandchild. The Yamadharmaraja, he has no way. But he has done so much of tapasya for Yamadharmaraja. And then he thinks, acha, theek hai, for only 5 days he's asking, okay, let me give. Suppose he says that, that means Yamadharmaraja seems to be having power to grant 5 days of leave, 5 days of extension of life. But Krishna says that 5 days of extension of life which Yamadharmaraja has given, that power has come from me only. He has borrowed it from me and then used. I have acceded to his request. If I had opposed it, Yamadharmaraja could not have done that. So Lord is holding himself supreme in the eyes of the aspirants. You see, every child has got a father. And the child reposes unflinching faith on the father. Even though two children may fight with each other, a rich and a poor child, The poor child also thinks that, my father is there to reprimand this rich man's child if he misbehaves with me. Whether the father will be able to do it or not is a different question. But even the poor man's child also thinks that his father is very supreme. So the Lord comes and appeals to all of us, saying that he is going to say that I am the Father, Prabhu, I am the Lord. I know all the beings in the past, present, and the future. You see, now the Lord is being painted in the most beautiful colors, magnanimous colors, most powerful, so that the aspirant does not have to resort to lesser powers. If I know that if I go and enroll myself for PhD under Nobel laureate, correct, a duly honored Nobel laureate, do you think I will have to resort to any further counsel from any other lesser person? It's not necessary, because the Nobel laureate is known for what he is. But then how do I know that he is a Nobel laureate? So how do I know that my master is really powerful? Unless I see the certificate being given to the Nobel laureate saying that you are being awarded some such, world will not come to know about it. But then who will give such a certificate to God? They're saying that he is the most powerful. The God will have to give the certificate to himself. Right? That's what God is. That's what Sri Krishna is doing here. That I know all the beings in the past, present, and the future, but no one knows me. But people, Mudaha, he says, sinful people, they don't worship me because of their demoniacal reason, the demoniacal tendencies. What is demoniacal tendencies? Asuri Sampad, they say. Sura and Asura, the particular these two words, they are given meanings which are out of proportions. So much so that these words have lost its practical import. See, Asuras, that word Asura comes from the word Asu. Asu. Asu means breath. Asuni ramante. They are enjoying. Asu also means breath, also means prana. So those people who enjoy the play of prana, the entire variegated nature is nothing but play of prana. So asuras are those people who are engaged in the worldly affairs, which is the playground of prana. Variety of forces are interplaying. Some favorable, some unfavorable, some futuristic. People are thinking futuristic, but it's there. Everything is there here only. Nothing is futuristic. So they are constantly engaged in only worldly affairs. They are the asuras, not the fancy ones described with gory forms and weird kind of caricature. They are not them. A person who is engaged only in worldly matters is an asura by the etymological sense. Indrajit, what did he do? He was engaged only with the world. For him, the concept of Brahman and Atman was not an object of adoration for him at all. He wanted sovereignty in this world. Unimpeachable sovereignty in this world. That's what he wanted. That's what Ravana wanted. That's what Kumbhakarna wanted. They are the asuras. So a person who completely believes only that nature has the things that will fulfill the purpose of one's existence, they are asuras. Okay? So seeker of liberation from samsara come to know that I am the sole existence. But the suras are those people who think the contrary. They don't take the nature to be eternal. They don't take it to be the only resort. See, it may not be eternal, but I don't have any other go. Even given the temporary lifespan, I don't have any other go other than hugging the nature, so to say. If that be the case, then I am condemned for this existence. God says you are not condemned to this existence because I am there to redeem you. So he says, this is a beautiful verse that which we saw earlier, that whatever you seek from the lesser forces, it is me who has actually supported you. Okay, now we come to the end of the 7th chapter. The last verse of the 7th chapter is, he inspires Arjuna to think about the question of Adidaivam, Adiyajnam, Adibhutam. There are three concepts. There are actually 6. Purusha is also there, and then okay, the Krishna at the last he says, it's a very important shloka of a phrase to note. He says, at the hour of the death, if his mind is steadfast on me, mind is steadfast on me at the hour of death, he will attain me. See, here attaining the God is the realization. Okay, you can attain God even while you are alive. According to Krishna, you can attain him even when you are embodied spirit. Now he says at the time of death also, the transition which takes him from embodied to disembodied, at that transition also, he has an opportunity to escape the cycles of birth and death. How? Simple. You think about me at the time of death. So this particular, Krishna gives this hope. But this hope raises a lot of questions in Arjuna's mind. So Arjuna asked this question that you talked about Adibhuta, Adidaivam, Adiyajnam. So what are these concepts? He asks. So this Akshara Brahma Yoga, it's called Akshara Brahma Yoga. It talks about the indivisible Brahman. Some ideas of the indivisible Brahman are given here. And it also talks about the life after death, the journey after death. And it talks about who become eligible to attain him at the time of death. So he brings in 3 concepts. He talks about Akshara Brahman, he talks about eligibility for attaining him after death, and he also talks about a brief passage of life after death. These 3 ideas are there. So the first Sri Krishna announces himself as, I am the Akshara. Akshara means that which disintegrates. And Akshara is the one which doesn't disintegrate. You may say molecule and atom, right? Molecule can disintegrate to atoms, but atom cannot further disintegrate. You can break it, of course, you have those fission, fusion things like coming. I'm not getting into that, but atom is, from the Eastern science perspective, Anu is not the Western atom, by the way. In the West, what they call atom, the science. The science currently what calls as atom is not the Anu which is proposed in our Shastra. Anu is still finer. Anu is still finer. In fact, several Anus will come together to form an atom. So, Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan. When Sri Krishna says this, I am smaller than the smallest, bigger than the biggest. The Lord announces himself as that. So, that is possible because he is the Akshara Brahman. I am the supreme imperishable Brahman. My inherent nature is what manifests as the indwelling spirit. This is another second pronunciation. These pronunciations, they cannot be challenged. They cannot be challenged. Because if you challenge, what happens? Whom are you challenging? The toy is challenging the right of the clay to be clay. The toy cannot challenge the clay. Correct? Because see, he has already said, I am the indwelling spirit. He has put that idea. So that means what? You have, your locus is in me. Therefore, this particular idea cannot be challenged. My perishable manifestation has great elements. Perishable in the sense that transforming. One is changing and another is unchanging. The higher nature is unchanging and the lower nature is changing. So even though the higher nature is unchanging, imperishable, but still it is indwelling in all the thing which changes. Same idea repeated, but the language changes. And then he says, Aham kratur aham yajnam svabhaham aham oshadam mantroham ahmevajyam aham agnir aham hutam. See, in Vedas, there are a lot of yajna, sacrifices, fire sacrifices that are done. Okay, and these fire sacrifices are addressed to various gods. That's why you see various lower powers being worshipped. We get all the prescriptions from the Vedas. Okay, what is called as from the Purva Mimamsa, from the ritualistic portions, not from the Uttara Mimamsa, which is the book of knowledge, which forms a later part of the text. The earlier part of the text, there are lots of rituals, and these rituals are aimed at fetching you a lot of worldly and heavenly benefits. Okay, and out of faith, these sacrifices are undertaken. And now, taking that sacrifice in that context of a sacrificer, Sri Krishna says that I am that the yajna that you are doing, that yajna itself is me only. Aham sarva yajnaham. Bhokta cha prabhurasi. That also he says. And I am the generator and I am also the enjoyer. That is, I am the doer of the yajna. I am also the enjoyer of the yajna. The enjoyer in the sense what? A person who is actually going to the Swarga, enjoying certain things. Or say Putra Kameshti Yajna. Putra Kameshti Yajna is one which Dasharatha seems to have done in order to get Rama as a child. Rama, Lakshmana, Sita, all Rama, Lakshmana and Bharata, Shatrughna, all the four he got them as children after having done the Putra Kameshti Yajna, it seems. And then the Putra Kameshti Yajna was officiated none less than your Vasishta. So, if Vasishta does the officiates, naturally, why not Rama will come? And then he says, Krishna, Arjuna asks, see, a person who happens to be thoughtful of you throughout his life, but then he slips towards the end of his life. He fails to think about you. What will happen to him? Then Krishna says, see, a person who, first Krishna gives a very generic reply. What he says is, whatever is your dominant thought at the time of your death, at the time when the prana leaves your body, when the soul apparently, when it seems to be escaping your body, just at that moment, whatever is your dominating thought, that particular jiva, he will become that. He or she will become that. It's a very generic statement. Particular statement. A person who at the time of death thinks about me will come to me. So you have theorem and corollary, right? Theorem will be generic statement. Corollary will be what? For one specific values of the variables in the theory, the theorem, you have a very interesting observation. So that will come as a corollary. So, but here Sri Krishna, what he did was, he put the corollary first and then the theorem later. First he says, those who think about me at the time of death, he will attain me. There is no doubt about it. He says, there is no doubt about it. The guy did not, atra asamgna samshayam. I think that's what he says. Correct. Na asti atra samshayaha. You see, the highest authority comes and says, you don't have to doubt that. But still we keep doubting. Huh? Still we keep doubting. That's a That's something which is so very, something very damaging in our constitution. That a person who is able to give us so much of assurance, even upon those words, we includes me also. I am not excluded in that. Okay, so because that unflinching faith, the devotion which absolutely does not look upon anything else as superior to God, if one has it, then Krishna says he becomes me. And I know that I have not become him. So that clearly tells that at some point in my own understanding, my own approach to God, there is a lacunae. Lacunae in instilling the faith, in instilling of devotion. There is something lacking. But, there is nothing to be depressed about, because he says that only very few have achieved that kind of perfection. So I can excuse myself as one among the collective failures. But those who keep trying, we improve, we develop ourselves. So he says, so after the corollary, he puts the theorem. What is the theorem? The theorem says, whatever a person thinks about it at the time of death, he gets to attain that. Earlier one was a blessing, the later one is a curse. The reason is, at the time of death, if I think about cockroach, imagine you will not be Krishna, but you will become a cockroach. That is a very sad thing. Correct? But then, Arjuna is now fighting the war. Now when you are fighting the war, you are thinking of another man. You are thinking of killing him, and then you are thinking of all the weaknesses, negative things about people. Correct? So that is the moment where you are engaging in war. Arjuna is going to do that. And there are many lies which are going to fall, like withered leaves and flowers. Correct? They are going to fall lifeless. How do you expect these people, the legitimate sons of God, the legitimate sons of this creation God, how do you expect these people to think about God at the time of killing? Correct? But is there anything so specific or so special about the battlefield? What about our own lifestyle? We are engaged in family affairs. In family affairs, there are so much of diversions and distractions and then attachments and repulsions. We have got enmeshed into that process. However domesticated it may be, not as challenging as your warfield, but nevertheless, we have lost ourselves in this. What is the guarantee that this guy will think about God at the time of death? When the near and dearer ones are the ones who are completely occupying his mind, now this soul, at the time of death, the same question arises that what is the guarantee that he will think about God? There is no guarantee. That's why he says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yuddhyacha. The Tasmat again comes here. Since there is no guarantee that when you will die, and there is no guarantee that you will have the thought of God at the time of death suddenly transplanted into your mind, while till the earlier moment you were engrossed in something else. Since this is close to impossible, therefore engage at all times in the thought of God. There is no other way. You say that. That means if you want to attain me, you will have to be my devotee. Only because a devotee is a person who takes a lot of joy, pleasure, a lot succor. He takes a lot of succor in the name of God. Succor means hope and strength, faith. For him, the names of the Lord are something which are non-transactable, non-negotiable. He is ready to give away everything for that, because he has found the joy and the taste in it. Namer Ruchi, Sri Ramakrishna says, Namer Ruchi. The moment you get the taste of Rasagulla, wherever Rasagulla shop is nearby, hot, good Rasagulla is being made, and being sold for meager 2 rupees, you will stand in queue for at least 1 hour to purchase a kilogram of such rasagullas, because you are convinced about the taste. You will not go and buy some chota mota candies, saying that okay, I will stay content with this candy, that that rasagulla is there. Anyway, let me see some other time. You will not do that. You stand in the queue, purchase and come, because it is sold for 2 rupees. If it is sold for 2 lakh rupees, you will not. But it is sold for 2 rupees. It is for every. It is at a beck and call of everyone. So easy to susukam. The next chapter starts with the idea that it is susukam and kartum avyayam. It is so easy and so easily approachable as well as easily demonstrable. He says, yes.
If you're saying that someone who thinks of God at the time of death, so and that is the
He attains God, and further to which he will not be enmeshed in this cycles of birth and death, says Krishna.
So then someone who now believes that they are one with God, someone like Swami Vivekananda or anybody else, why would they want to continue their existence over here? Since that?
So why is a very big question. Why is Vivekananda continuing to serve the society even after knowing that he is one with Master? So that why is very difficult to say. Why is very, very difficult to see. Why you can only say how it happens. You cannot ask why it happens. How it happened, we know. Because Sri Ramakrishna said, see, you have got that experience, but that experience temporarily will be kept in lock and key. That is the language which Ramakrishna used. That is how he got deluded. It will be kept in lock and key, and the key will be with the Divine Mother. When her work gets done, she will open it and then lead you to eternal beatitude. So how we know? Why? Because the sky is so high. Again, why will come to this point? That is a person who keeps the room very clean. Okay.
So we will get that Ramakrishna asked Vivekananda that whatever you experience, let
Others also get, but why?
okay. Why?
Again, that why will be transported to that particular sentiment of why did Sri Ramakrishna wanted the what he called the rejuvenation of the mankind in general. Why did he want that? Then we say it is not Sri Ramakrishna's want, it is Divine Mother's want. Because he says the Divine Mother is working through me, I am just a child. So you can transport this why from Sri Ramakrishna onto Divine Mother. Now you can ask the question about why did Divine Mother first of all allow the degradation for a later rejuvenation?
One person has asked this.
Same question, huh? Yeah. So this why is a very, very naughty question. There are no philosophy as able to conclusively give an answer to this.
Why this whole chakra was triggered? Creation was done in the first place.
Hey, yeah, we are. It's actually begging the question. They say, no, begging the question. The answer begs the question.
It's very different from what Shankaracharya did. Because in Shankaracharya's case, it was he who decided that okay, this is how I have to be. But in the case of Vivekananda, it was Ramakrishna. Ramakrishna actually tells him that it is your duty.
Correct.
In the case of Shankaracharya, it was him that yes, this is what I am for. So he is a
Slightly higher. Yes, that's right. So it was not. We do not know what Gaudapada or Govindapada had told Shankara. We don't know. Because at the age of 16, he was about to leave.
But he met them much later.
No. So at the age of 7, apparently, this is what what you call the bleak history, or rather the grey history of Shankaracharya says this. At the age of 7, he left his house. Correct, and he walked towards Uttarakhand, a place near Narmada. It's a very
Ujjain.
Not Ujjain.
Omkareshwar.
Yes. So he went to Omkareshwar. He met his master, Govinda Bhagavad Pada, and then he learned scriptures from him. But prior to learning the scripture, when Govinda Bhagavad Pada greeted Shankaracharya, he asked, "Who are you?" So the boy will have to give his introduction. He said, "I am Atma." So he was born perfect. Shankaracharya apparently seems to be born perfect. So then Govinda Bhagavad Pada takes him and then gives him the so-called the Gurukulam learning.
What I'm saying is that
And then at the age of 16, he was to die.
Shankaracharya decides to leave home at the age of 7. That itself was Shankaracharya's decision.
Actually, Vivekananda also wanted to leave.
Atma's decision, whatever.
No, Vivekananda did not leave at the behest of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Vivekananda wanted to leave.
Correct.
In fact, he, like, just as the way Shankaracharya left the earth and home and went for tapasya, likewise, Vivekananda also wanted to leave. He was secretly planning for the final exodus, final exit. But then Sri Ramakrishna somehow somehow found it. And then he became extremely morose. Extremely, he felt that his near and dear disciple is planning to leave. And then he ekes out a promise from Vivekananda saying that so long as I am alive, Ramakrishna says, so long as I am alive, you be with me. Don't leave before my leaving. First promise. Second promise is that, but you have got a job for the people, world. You are going, you will go and work for your self-perfection and self-emancipation. And what about the job that is half done, left undone? Who will work for the people? How will you awaken the sleeping Leviathan? So that's what Vivekananda himself says. That the sleeping Leviathan is now waking up. He used to say. The language is actually borrowed from Sri Ramakrishna. He says, mother wants you to do that. India was in such a state of doldrum. And if the land which is the promise of spirituality for the entire world is subdued and is degraded, then it is the degradation of the spirituality of the whole world. Sri Ramakrishna was not looking at rejuvenation of the Bharata Desha, not from the perspective of just mere India, but this is the cradle of spirituality. Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda, if you read, we get to see in copious language how he appreciates, how he praises Bharata Bhumi to be the cradle of spirituality. Says that if spirituality is getting weakened or destroyed, it is a loss for the whole world. Because there is absolutely no other religion, no other scriptures which has discovered the idea that you are one with the Master. You are one with the Master. There is no other scripture which has done that. Which means the entire generations and yugas, I should say, of effort has gone into preserving this one particular grain of wisdom, golden grain of wisdom, that me and Master are one. Others may say, but they are not following it. But here is one religion, one philosophy which harps on it in the loudest of language and emotions.
What you're saying that Shankaracharya also wanted to leave at the age of 16?
No, Shankaracharya's life itself was bound to only at 16. So he was to die, and then the mythical lore says that it was Vyasa who extended it by another 16 years and then gave him the task. He gave him the task of doing all the Bhashya work. So he was handed over the task. Shankaracharya was not a person to actually take it upon himself. But it was ordained upon him just as the way Divine Mother ordained upon Vivekananda for the rejuvenation of the Indian masses. Thereby rejuvenating the spiritual culture of the whole world. Today or tomorrow or a day later, the world will have to come to know about this and practice each of it in their own way. See, the beauty of this is when the scripture says that you are the Atma, the Atman is nothing other than Brahman, it does not expect you to abide by this idea in one particular way. Yes, Sri Krishna says in the 5th chapter, Yatkaroshi, Yadashnasi, Yajjuhoshi, Dadasi. He says, do whatever you want. It doesn't indoctrinate you into certain forms of practice. That is the beauty of this spiritual knowledge, or rather prescription. that whatever you do with the idea that you are the Atma. So you be a businessman, or you be a defense personnel, or you be a mere simple householder. Does not matter. In whichever footing you are, just have this idea that you are the Atma. And then he says that Antakale cha mameva swaranutaka. So then he says, Tasma sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara. Mamanusmara, think about me, the Krishna. If you go still deeper, who is the Krishna? Krishna is nothing but the Atma, the indwelling spirit. So he is asking us to identify ourselves not with body, not with mind, not with intellect, not with property, not with position, not with relationships, not with power, but with the Atma, which is our original self. That is our true ownership. And the moment we have it, all what we have said, enumerated, 10 and 20 and 1 million more, they all will fall in line. That is Sri Krishna's prescription for us. And he says, such a person, when he is engaging throughout his life in this manner, that he is Atma, but still engaging in all the activity, this for him, the idea that he is the Atma will be predominant. Just as the horse is front of the carriage. So long as the horse is in front of the carriage, the security and the safety of the carriage is assured. Likewise, if you put the horse of the Atma in front of the carriage of the body, mind, intellect, power, position, relationship, all of them are like carriages which is following the idea, the head of an idea called Atma. Then the journey is safe and you are assured to reach the destiny. And he says that on the way, if there is an accident and then you die with the idea that you are the Atma. Because you have lived in that thought. So that you are the Atma will become a dominant thought. And you being the worshipper of the God becomes a dominant thought. And you come to attainment. So we'll stop with this and then continue in our next meeting. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.
You were explaining the three conditions given by Sri Ramakrishna to Vivekananda. So first one, like, don't leave this modern world before me. What was awaken the sleeping Leviathan? What is it?
No, he didn't say third. There are only two things. See, for second one was he was chiding Swami Vivekananda that how selfish you are. That you are working for your own emancipation. I thought you are a huge banyan tree who will give shelter to so many forlorn souls. And you are seeking your personal liberation. So he chides him. And then he says that you are to work for the people. And so then that idea, and then Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva. So how to now serve the people? In a condescending manner? Just as the way people, hey, I am giving you charity, you take it. I am been given the authority to give you charity. It is not based on authority. Then Swami Vivekananda says, it is not that high-headedness and high-handedness with which we have to serve the people. In fact, he says, the giver shall kneel down and pray, and the receiver shall stand and permit. So the guy who takes the help from you, he is permitting you to do the philanthropy and charity and help. So now that particular act becomes the service of God. Because if you kneel down, you cannot hold him to be a mere poor man, a mere weak gentleman, a one who is deprived of the so-called the worldly needs. You cannot look up upon him like that. You have to look. You can kneel down only if you can put him in a better pedestal, higher pedestal. So he says, look upon him as a God, and then serve the God. The God has unfortunately, or so to say, circumstantially, he is wearing such a poor dress. It is yet another costume. There are so many costumes which the God can wear. It is yet another costume. So identify not the costume, but the indwelling spirit, and then serve the person. So that is the idea behind kneeling down and pray before you actually go and help him. And the person rises. What happens thereby? The dignity of that individual is restored. The person who receives help from you will feel a lot more emboldened in spirit, and then he may even work out that particular help in a much more meaningful manner and come out of the salvage himself out of the situation. You are not going to help him 24/7. So he will take help of yours and then he will come out. For that you have to embolden his spirit. and that your attitude is going to be play such a transformation in him.
And Maharaj, on the contrary, the person who is helping, his ego is also.
His ego is also checked. Yes, it is also removed, and
I think the context is somebody said in front of Thakur that you should do charity, something like that. I will do charity.
no.
Then
Jiver Daya.
Jive Doya.
Jiver. There is a song. Jiver Daya bole. I forget that song. So when that song has been sung, Sri Ramakrishna prompted and said, "What? Jiver Daya, compassion to the living beings. Who are you to be compassionate? You have to serve them. Mercy and compassion are given only to God, not to the urchins like us. So what we are supposed to do is we can only serve the God. Maximum what we can do is serve seva, not daya but seva,
Not pity, but seva.
not pity, not compassion, but
Worship.
seva. So then when Swami Narendranath was there at that time, he took that idea and then said, I can write an entire treatise on this. It has got such an import, and he took that and then created the entire Ramakrishna mission based on that. He said that Atmano Mokshartam Jagad Hitaya. That Jagad Hita is actually the seva aspect, and Atmano Mokshartam is for the emancipation aspect. Then Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva. He again formula. These are two wonderful formulas. Ramakrishna mission sadhus. Yeah, Sri Krishna says that the dominant thought, you will become what your dominant thought at the time of death. In Ramakrishna Mat, the two dominant thoughts are these two ideas. Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva is one dominant thought, and Atmano Mokshatam Jagadita is another dominant thought. So these two capsules are there continuously ringing in our ears and brain.
Maharaj, one more question I had regarding this part, like when I'm like dying and all. So whatever I think I'll become. If I think of the God, I like join with him. But what if I think of something like more towards the model world, like something maybe like I might think of something like Vivekananda. So like what happens like after my
See, thinking of Vivekananda is like thinking of Ishvara. You will become Ishvara. Vivekananda is not an ordinary man. He is not a person who was born someday and died someday. He was immortal. Vivekananda, Sri Ramakrishna. See, we resort to some of the confessions or maybe revelations which Sri Ramakrishna has given us about Vivekananda. We have to resort to that to know what Vivekananda is. So Sri Ramakrishna says that he is Narayana himself, who has come to the earth for the protection and the growth of individuals. See, that is his mystical experience of Vivekananda. I am not here to, advertise it and propagandize it in a pulpit. But if I were to know what Vivekananda is, these are the only few utterances I have for me. It's for my own personal consumption. It's there for everyone's individual consumption. He says that he is Narayana. Narayana has come down. So if you think of Vivekananda, you are thinking of Narayana. So that is as good as thinking of Sri Krishna. So then you become him. That means you will give up your embodiment. You will not be enmeshed into this 5 elements of mundane nature. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.